Hello, fellow pipe fixers. Today's video is by request in response to that what would you like to see comment thing that I made a week or so ago. This was specifically asked for, and I had to wait till I found some good specimens. These ridiculously caked pipes are something that I tend not to see all that much anymore because I work on collectibles, and in this day and age the people who collect pipes tend to not smoke them every day chimney style the way they once did, and they take better care of them because they're not considered to be disposable items the way they were a century ago or 75 years ago. But it still happens from time to time. These are outstanding specimens. This is a Dunhill 59, one of my very favorite shapes personally. What I got here? A Barling's fossil and a couple more Barling bulldogs here. In any event, how I do this is slightly alarming to some and makes perfect sense to others, and I'll just show you and then you'll know. First off, I want to cover something basic, that there are different styles of reaming tools available to the general public, and they're not equipped to deal. These are for daily trimming. This is like shaving your, if you don't wear a beard and you shave every day or every other day, that's a different proposition. You use different tools than if you're removing a full beard. Then you use clippers like you would for somebody's head. So don't try to take out 1/4 inch thick built up cake with these. Now it might be from time to time you'll find a aromatic smoker that where the cake is soft and kind of tar-like, and then they'll work. But as the grade of the pipe increases, the tendency of those people to smoke Virginias and English blends also increases. So you rarely find the soft cakes on these old high-grade pipes. So this is like cement, and you can basically spend the rest of your life trying to get that out with one of these. All they do is squeak and drive you crazy. Don't even waste your time. The other thing people will do is take the entire stummel and throw it in a jelly jar filled with alcohol to soften this. And that's also okay sometimes, and by that I mean you have to be prepared to refinish the pipe, because usually, almost always, that's what you have to do. And you have to be very careful, because that will blow out the nomenclature on some pipes. It'll swell the wood, even though you wouldn't think that alcohol would. It does upon from time to time. So you can it's a great way, an efficient way to deal with what they call lawnmower pipes, travel pipes, the kind that you just want to get them back into smokable condition. And if that's your thing, then just throw the bowls in a Tupperware container full of alcohol, take them out, and you'll get the cake out of them real fast. But you'll have to refinish them, but any color will do, kind of a thing. It's not that critical. These you don't want to go throwing into alcohol. So, how do I do it? And here we go. These are tap handles, and they're holding special bits. And by special, I mean they were bought as the ordinary cheap hardware store large, the kind of a thing that you might take a section about that size out of a door to put in a lock, for example. When you don't have the equipment to handle drill bits of 3/4 of an inch and 1 inch and so on, they're called spade bits. Now I don't have an unmodified one here, but most of you have seen them. They kind of have little devil horns on them and a point in the center. They're a blade, and they work fairly well for what they're intended. They're for weekend home renovator, they're for weekend hobbyists and home shop guys. They're not professional, but they work. Now, if you take those and grind them into bowl profiles, you're going to need a bunch of them to do this, because you have to match both the diameter and the profile with the pipe you're working on. But you get something that looks like that. And let me tell you, the advantage of having 2 cutting blades instead of 3 or 4, you think intuition says these work better because it looks fancier. It's got more pressure, it's all that kind of stuff. Not so. When you're taking out vast quantities of cake, it has to be broken up. I call this a cracker, and not to be confused with something you eat, but kind of the sound it makes when you use it. So you choose the proper size and just make sure you're holding the bowl really firmly and start doing this number, and the cake will just fall out in vast quantities with virtually no effort. It's just annihilating that. Now you do have to be careful and watch that you're not gouging the wall of the pipe, but it just takes a little care and a little experience, and out it comes. It looks like I'm going to need to go down one size before I go back to that one, but let me see. Yeah, this will work. There we go. This is awkward to do for the camera because the angles aren't what I would normally use. There we go. Now, making these bits, converting those so-called spade bits into these, can be done on a grinder, but grinders will overheat metal very quickly, and you'll end up with blue edges that are softened. What you want is a belt sander. They distribute the heat over the length of the belt, and the metal that you're working on will heat up much slower. So that's almost there. At this point, you could downshift and use something like this. Personally, once I get within shooting range, the thing to do is to take dowels. Now this is very rough paper. It's like 80 grit, cloth backed, industrial paper, and there is a layer of foam on there, which I got from mouse pads. Remember mouse pads? You can still buy them. It's about 1 millimeter thick. Cut it to fit and use it as the underlayment for the sandpaper. You want to have a little bit of squish. It doesn't kind of make sense, but trust me, you do. And in that case, then once you get to where you're within spitting distance or hollering distance or whatever that country phrase is, using the cracker blade, you just go in with one of these. Now we just ended up with about a tablespoon of crud on the workbench down here. It's not in view of the camera. But with I can go over it one more time using something like this that's a little bit smaller and designed to get all the way to the bottom. Now you can either grind the end of a rod into a hemispherical shape, or you can use something like this along the bottom, and then just cut a whole bunch of little leaves in it and overlay it. Fold it down like the way they fold those little dumplings in a Chinese restaurant, and just always make sure you go the same way so that the little flower doesn't open up. And that'll go all the way down to the bottom. And whoa, how pretty is that? This is a lovely piece. I loves me some 59s. This one's from 1946, which is a rare year as well. Okay, well, that is it. If you've got any questions about this particular video, anything that I've discussed or what have you, post them to the Designed for the Task Q&A video. I'm going to keep the comments closed on these others. They're up to like 60 of those things now, and I don't want to have to go through all 60 every day looking for questions for the rest of time. So I'm trying to keep them all in one spot. Anyway, that is it, or rather, it's not the full meal deal as far as all the equipment I have for that, but you should have seen enough to get you started on developing your own set of these ground spade bits, like so. Make a set of these, and then make a set of dowels of various kinds. Get a hold of some cloth back paper. You don't want the paperback paper. It's too fragile. This stuff lasts for years. And there it is. You just saw me do a pipe while talking at the same time in, what, 60 seconds? And it was closed off. You couldn't hardly smoke a cigarette out of that by putting the butt end in there. And it just fell right out. So, that's it. Until next time, take care.